I have made some serious mistakes in my day. I will be the first one to admit it. I have made some errors. And actually, a few of those mistakes have led to me closing down some of my businesses. But I am now fortunate enough to have 3 businesses which are doing quite well. So I feel like I've learned a lot because I've made so many mistakes. But regardless, I've learned a lot. And I feel like all those mistakes that I made in the past and the issues that I ran into previously could have been avoided if I watched a video like this one. And that brings me on to today's topic. So today I will be telling you what nobody tells you about starting a business, in the hopes that you will watch this and you'll learn loads, get loads of tips and tricks, and hopefully you won't make the same mistakes that I did. Hi everyone, I'm Jade. I release weekly videos all about entrepreneurship and social media. So if you're interested in those subjects, then I recommend hitting the subscribe button. So today, as you know, I'm talking about some of the things I wish I knew before I started my business. And I'm going to get straight to it. The first thing that I wish I knew, or I wish someone told me to do, was to get feedback from people outside of my inner circle. I want to start with this one because I'll tell you a story as to why it's so important, but I feel like it's like one of the most important tips. And it's also one that I feel like people usually know that they need to do, but they never actually go out of their way to get it done. And basically what I mean, when you're in the initial phases of your business development, actually this is applicable to anyone, it doesn't really matter what phase you're in regards to your business development. So what you need to do is reach out to people who you may not know, ideally people who are in your field, and ask them for just honest feedback on the product or the service that you are developing. So if you are starting a boutique, that always comes to mind because I own a couple of boutiques, but if you're thinking about starting a boutique and you've just finished your branding, get someone who has worked in the industry, or get someone who is a graphic designer or something, to cast an eye over your branding and get their honest feedback. Get a few people to do that. If you've just created a new product, get someone to give honest feedback on that. If you've just created a service, then make sure you've given out your service for free 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 times and gained honest feedback on it. This is so imperative, and I'll tell you right now why it's so imperative. One of my old businesses was a candle brand, which I loved and I want to bring back one day, but it was a candle brand that I started when I was really young. And I came up with this really cool packaging idea, and I was really excited by it. And I basically designed all my candles, I made them from scratch, I'd done all the packaging, and then I headed down to Shoreditch to try and sell them into people. It was a horrific experience. If you're not used to in-person sales, I wouldn't recommend it. It was horrific. I cried for hours afterwards. I really didn't enjoy it. But there was one shop where I gave them my candle and they were like, I'll think about it, and they give me some time to review it, right? And then they emailed me and was like, hey, I've got some feedback for you. Do you want to schedule a call? So I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, I didn't really want feedback. I just want you to buy the candles. But anyway, I thought, okay, let me pick up the phone and let me hear what they got to say. And they gave me really honest feedback. They were just like, you're missing a few bits from your packaging. You need to include a bit more description on this. This element needs to be moved over here. I usually find that the candles that I sell, the ones that do really well, usually position their brand this way and all this kind of stuff. So I remember listening to it. I wasn't even making notes. I was just sad. I was just devastated because I was like, all I could hear was him saying, I'm not buying your candle, I don't like it. I couldn't listen to any of the feedback he was giving me. All I was thinking was, I failed. The candle's rubbish. No one's ever gonna like it. I should just give up now. And I got so defeatist of myself. I've come a long way since that mindset. I was 22 at the time, and for those of you who don't know it, that was a while ago. So I just got really upset, and I didn't take any of his feedback on board. Instead, about a month later, I closed the business because I was like, it's never going to work. And when I look back to it, I just think, what a stupid thing to do. That guy was giving me gold. He was giving me such great advice. He was going out of his way to give it to me, which he didn't have to do. And the advice was actionable. There was parts of it that he still liked. I feel like if I took his advice on board, I might still have that brand, if I'm being completely honest. It was my unwillingness to listen to his advice, which basically killed that company, which is why I had to get feedback from others who are not in your circle first on my list of things that I wish I knew before I started my businesses. Okay, so the next thing I have on my list in regards to what I wish I knew before I started my businesses is I wish I knew not to skimp on branding. Now, I consider myself a bit of an amateur graphic designer. So by that, I mean, I done graphic design for GCSE, got an A. And I have Photoshop, and I've got the oldest version, from like 10 years ago. I got it when I was at school. So actually that's more than 10 years ago. It's like 12, 13 years ago. So in a nutshell, I'm basically every real graphic designer's worst nightmare. I think I know what I'm doing when actually I have no clue at all. I have somewhat of a visual eye, so I can make something that looks, somewhat decent. But when it comes to saving it as the right format and all that rubbish, I don't know any of it because I'm not properly trained, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just guessing. And that caused quite a few issues for me along the way. I really thought I could do it all myself, and I'm sure there's so many people out there who feel the same way, where you just think, I can make this, I have Photoshop or I have Canva, like I can do this myself. And whilst I think it's a really good idea for you to have your brand design and your brand aesthetics in mind, if you can afford to get a professional to do it for you, then I just recommend doing it from the jump because it's going to save you so much time. I know what you're thinking, that's probably going to be really expensive, but I do have a solution for you which I think is going to be of real interest, and that is a company called TAILOR Brands. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. They're actually quite new, but what they've developed is really cool. It's literally like an AI powered full visual identity service. And I mean, I'm only focusing on the visual identity stuff in the minute because that's what we're talking about in this section, but they also offer things like domain names and website building and like SEO. Like they offer basically full works of what you would need for your business. But if we focus on the visual identity kind of brand development side for the time being. So TAILOR Brands has a suite of tools which will help you build your branding all in one service. So I'm going to list all the services that they have. Okay, are you ready? Logo design, a whole full branding package, a designed website, as I mentioned, website hosting, domains, a business mailbox, I'll come on to that in a bit later, business cards, social media tools, like basically everything you would need. It's also super cheap and easy to use, and as I mentioned, it's AI powered. And for any of you who doesn't know what AI means, it means artificial intelligence, which is basically, oh my god, I'm really going to test myself here. I'm going to try and explain what artificial intelligence is. Sorry, who do I think I am? So artificial intelligence is basically when we're getting robots and computers to perform tasks which are usually required by human. So it's almost like mimicking human intelligence. I feel like that's right. I'm gonna Google it and check. That was right. I've done well. Someone's gonna comment like, no, that's not right. And you know what? You're probably right. But I think that's a good enough definition for the time being. Anyway, so TAILOR Brands uses AI to power their whole suite of systems. And what this basically means is that they can come up with a whole visual identity and branding and assets and everything that you need based on your preferences. So if you're someone who doesn't have like a visual eye or enjoys the process of designing logos, then this is your solution, this is your answer. Because what the system is going to do is ask you a bunch of different questions, and it's going to take your answers to come up with your suite of assets and come up with your whole branding visual identity. So you don't actually have to design anything. All you need to do is look at stuff and be like, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I want that one. That is literally all you do. It takes all of that ag out of the whole process for you. And then, of course, by the end of the whole process, if you do decide that you want to purchase any of their assets, whether it's the logo or whether it's like your social media templates or whatever, once you purchase them, they are of course all yours. So you don't need to worry about further legal issues down the line or questions in regards to whether it's actually yours and you own it. You do, you completely own it. They sign over all ownership once you purchase for them. So to sum up, the reason why I wish I knew not to skimp on branding and I wish I knew about a service like TAILOR Brands in the beginning is because branding is so key to your business, and it also just makes you look professional. Again, something I'm going to touch on in a bit later. It makes you look professional when you know for a fact that when you're shopping on a website, you just found a new brand, the branding doesn't look right, it's pixelated, it doesn't look professional. You know you're probably not going to shop from them because you don't trust them. Good branding installs trust, and trust is something which is really hard to get when you're fresh on the scene. So if you're at that stage where you're thinking about how am I going to do my whole branding, visual identity, how am I going to create assets, how am I going to do my website, please check out TAILOR Brands. The link is in my bio. Okay, so the next thing that I wish I knew, or the next thing that I wish I did before I started my businesses, is I wish I dedicated more time to learn from people who have done it before. I'm a bit of a geek, I don't know. I quite like learning. Like I quite like studying. Sometimes I miss uni because I actually miss the process of like learning. So I always do courses and stuff. It's actually quite sad now that I say it out loud. Before I started my businesses, you know, I did invest in my personal development, but I very much focused on stuff that I really was comfortable with. So I was just reading about marketing because that's what I knew and that's what I studied. What I didn't do is spend time reading about accounting or, you know, learning from people who owned, you know, boutiques or whatever business I was trying to start at the time, learning from people who had done that before. And I know what you're thinking, she's gonna tell us to get a coach. I don't wanna be one of those people, so I'm not gonna dwell on it, but if you can afford to get a coach, then it will be the easiest way for you to learn what you need to learn in order for your business to be a success. However, I know not a lot of people are in a position to invest in coaches, but there are other ways to learn, like even from things like purchasing books, if it's like someone who has done whatever you're trying to do before and they have an ebook, buy their ebook, you know, that's far lower ticket. But even if we're talking about free things, like there are so many free resources online. A lot of people share free content on social media. There are ways to learn. Granted, if you go down the free route, you're not guaranteed to get the information that you need, and it's going to take you a lot longer to find it. But the point I'm trying to make is that everyone has the ability to learn and upskill themselves before or during their business process. And that's something that I've learned the hard way and I do all the time now. And I definitely think it's helped me a lot in my business. So this is another thing that, I mean, I actually did know this before I started my businesses, but this is something that I don't think a lot of people know or do, so I wanted to make sure it was included. And that is to focus on professionalism. And it links in a bit to my branding point before about not skimping on branding, but there are other elements to it. So things like getting a domain name so that, you know, if you're running a store, you're not still using your .my Shopify URL, you've got your own custom domain name. Having a business email address, oh my God, that's so important. I think that's like, well, it was one of the first things that I did because I was like, I'm not having jade@hotmail.com on my business website. It's not happening. And as I mentioned, TAILOR brands do offer the ability to get you domain names and to get your business email address. So, you know, as I mentioned, it's definitely worth checking out. Those type of stuff, making sure that you can appear as professional as possible, is so important because, as I mentioned before, if you don't look like a professional brand, people won't trust you and they won't buy from you. Okay, so another thing that I wish I knew, or I wish I realized the importance of before I started my business, this is a big one, is the importance of a business mindset. And to me, a business mindset is one where you think in abundance versus scarcity. So abundance is the idea that there is enough of everything to go around, and scarcity is the idea that there's not enough for everything to go around. These types of theories, along with so many other things like just learning how to manage your time, learning how to prioritize to a ridiculous degree. I'm not just talking about ordering your to-do list here. I'm talking about some serious prioritization techniques, that kind of stuff, opening your mind to the possibilities of success beyond like your wildest dreams, like being able to manifest, being able to speak things into existence, all that stuff, which if you've not ever bought into it, you're probably thinking, what is she talking about? I can't do it justice in this video. I don't want to butcher like, you know, the idea of having a good mindset, but there are several books that I read. I'll actually show you some of them. Okay, I got a bit carried away when I went to the bookshelf and I think I took too many. So I'm just gonna pick my favorite ones, or just the ones that I think that are the most important that you read. 4-Hour Work Week. Take this book with a pinch of salt because there's some bits in it which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's really good at challenging your approach to working in general and just like life. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, classic, corny mindset self-help book, but it changed my whole approach to money. Like Box Thinking, Bounce, pretty sure they're by the same person. Yeah. I've actually just realised I have two of the same book. How's that happened? That's actually really annoying because one of these is fairly new. Like I bought one of these like a month ago and read it, which means that I had another one here the entire time. How dumb. So silly. This, okay, I promised I'd finish with the best one. This book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is the kind of book where I'm going to read multiple times throughout the rest of my life. It is like life-changing. Again, I'm not going to try and tell you all of the context. It's going to absolutely butcher it. But as you can tell, it's about 7 habits that everyone should have and it makes you highly effective. But we're not just talking about like, get up early, you know, tackle the hardest task first. It's not that kind of stuff. It is like deep, life-changing, applicable to every part of your life type of stuff. So I'm going to put links to all of those books in my description in case you want to buy them. But in general, I just wish if I started reading these books when I was like in my early 20s, who knows where I'd be now, but it would be a lot further along in life than I actually am. So those are all the things that I wish I knew before I started my business. If you found that video useful, then I recommend watching this video. I share all the mistakes I made in business. It gets real deep and real personal. So if you need someone to make you feel better about any mistake that you've made recently, I recommend watching this video because I have made some shockers. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.